Welcome back to Xenomorph Log, where we explore the cinematic codes and symbolic systems behind F's most enduring questions. In our last video, we reviewed the biggest blockbuster films of 2025. What's coming, what's shifting, and what's redefining the genre. If you missed it, check out the full breakdown in the link below. Today, we kick off a brand new series with the Predator Saga! Our ongoing focus on one reoccurring central theme, the evolutionary debate. Where did we come from? Was it accident or design? And what does cinema say about it? We begin with Predator Badlands, releasing November 7th. A film that doesn't just entertain, but challenges our assumptions about origins, intelligence, and survival. The Predator isn't from Earth. It predates us. It's alien, biologically, chemically, and symbolically. Its glyphs and symbols are primal shape-oriented and ritualistic, designed systems that echo ancient human markings but speak to something older, more deliberate. This series will explore how movies like Predator, Prometheus, and Alien reference origin creation myths, and how they help us find ourselves through recollection, reassemblage, and fragmentation. We'll compare human origins to predator biology and examine the carbon footprint, both literal and symbolic, left behind in archaeology and memory. Just as the Predator returns to a base place, a primal zone, we return to the Badlands, a metaphor for early Earth, for prey, for arrival. And then there's happenstance, a recurring theme in the Predator franchise. The idea that survival isn't just strategy, it's timing, randomness, and ritual. We'll unpack that too. Let's begin. Let's begin with one of the most striking shifts in Predator Badlands: vocalization. For decades, the predator species has been defined by its silence. It mimics human speech, yes, but only in fragments. It growls, clicks, roars. It communicates through gesture, glyph, and ritual. But it doesn't speak, not in full sentences, not in shared language. That absence was intentional. In the original films, the Predator's lack of verbal language made it more alien, more unknowable. It was a hunter, not a diplomat. A presence, not a participant. But in Badlands, that changes. The Predator speaks fluently. And that shift isn't just a narrative twist. It's a symbolic evolution. We've seen echoes of this before. In Alien vs. Predator, the Yautja form a temporary alliance with a human using glyphs and gestures to communicate. In Prometheus, the engineers, once creators, have phased out their use of language entirely. They speak through technology, through design, through destruction. And the Xenomorphs, they don't speak at all. They embody pure instinct, no words, no negotiation. Just survival. So what does it mean when the Predator begins to speak? It means the species is evolving, not just biologically, but cognitively. It's crossing a threshold from ritual to rhetoric, from symbol to syntax. And that shift reframes everything we thought we knew about its origins. Because if the Predator can speak, it can remember, it can recount. It can reflect. And that brings us back to the question, where did it come from? Not Earth, not our timeline, not our biology. The Predator is alien, pre-dating humanity, arriving in the Badlands as a returning force, a footprint, a memory, a symbol. Its glyphs are primal, shape, oriented, etched into armor, weapons, and walls. They're not just decoration. They're a language, a design system, a biology, a chemistry. And when we compare that to human origin myths, our own fragmented recollections, our own symbolic systems, we begin to see the parallels, the search for self, the reassemblage of memory, the carbon footprint left behind in bones, in soil, in story. The Badlands become more than a battlefield. They become a metaphor for early Earth, for arrival, for prey, for the return of something ancient. And in that return, we find happenstance. The idea that survival isn't just strategy, it's timing, it's randomness, it's ritual. The predator doesn't just hunt, it arrives, it adapts, it waits. And now it speaks. Let's move deeper. The footprint is more than a trace, it's a return. In Predator Badlands, the creature doesn't just arrive, it revisits. It returns to a primal zone, a place that mirrors early Earth, where survival was raw, instinctual, and unfiltered. This return is symbolic. It's a re-entry into the evolutionary crucible, where biology and memory collide. Carbon-based life is the foundation of human existence. Our bodies, our breath, our bones, all carbon. But the predator challenges that foundation. Its biology is different. Anaerobic, amphibious, integrated with technology. It's not just a creature, it's a system, a design, a chemistry that doesn't follow our rules. And that contrast opens the door to archaeology. Not just the digging of bones, but the excavation of meaning. The predator leaves behind glyphs, symbols, fragments, just like we do in caves, in ruins, in stories. These are our footprints, our memory traces, our attempts to reassemble who we were and what we became. Origin creation myths tell us how life began. They vary across cultures. Some speak of gods, others of stars, others of sacrifice. In Prometheus, the engineers seed Earth with DNA. In Alien, life mutates through parasitism. In Predator, arrival is ritual. The creature doesn't evolve here. It arrives here. That's a different kind of origin. Not emergence, but insertion. And that's where periodization comes in. Civilizations mark time through eras, through symbols, through events. The predator disrupts that. It doesn't follow our calendar. It follows its own. Its glyphs are not just language. They're timestamps. They mark presence. They mark return. So when the predator steps into the Badlands, it's not just hunting. It's remembering. It's reactivating a cycle. And in that cycle, we see ourselves, our own fragmented myths, our own carbon footprints, our own search for meaning. Let's keep going. The predator doesn't just kill. It selects. It studies. It ritualizes. And that behavior tells us something deeper. It's not just a hunter, it's a culture. In Badlands, we see this more clearly than ever. The creature's actions aren't random. They're patterned. They're ceremonial. And that brings us to the idea of typology. What kind of predator are we really dealing with? In earlier films, the predator was framed as an apex predator, the top of the food chain, the ultimate hunter. But in Badlands, we begin to see the emergence of something else, a super predator, not just stronger or faster, but more evolved, more intentional, more symbolic. This isn't just about physical dominance. It's about cognitive evolution, about ritual intelligence. We see it in the way it moves, the way it marks its kills, the way it uses its environment, and most of all, in the way it communicates. Not just through speech, but through design, through glyphs, through encoded systems that carry meaning across. This mirrors what we saw in Prometheus. The engineers didn't just create, they encoded. They left behind star maps, genetic trails, symbolic architecture. Their language was visual, spatial, molecular. And when they stopped speaking, their creations kept evolving. The xenomorphs don't speak, they don't need to. Their biology is their message. Their form is their function. The predator sits somewhere between. It speaks now, but it also remembers. It uses language, but it still honors ritual. It's a bridge between instinct and intention, between the primal and the post-linguistic. And that's where the comparison to human evolution becomes unavoidable. We mark our history with tools, with symbols, with stories. We define eras by what we build and what we destroy. The predator does the same. Its weapons are not just instruments, they're heirlooms. Its armor is not just protection, it's identity. So when we talk about apex predators, we're not just talking about biology, we're talking about memory, about myth, about the ability to shape one's environment and one's legacy. The predator is not just a threat, it's a reflection of what we are, of what we fear, of what we might become. Let's keep going. This mirrors our own process of finding ourselves. We look back, we dig, we reassemble. We take fragments, bones, artifacts, stories, and try to build a coherent identity. The predator does the same. Its rituals are acts of recollection. Its hunts are acts of reaffirmation. It returns to the Badlands not just to dominate, but to remember. And in that act of remembering, it becomes a mirror. We see ourselves in its glyphs, in its silence, in its sudden speech, in its design systems, in its chemistry, in its biology. The predator is alien, yes, but it's also familiar. It's a reflection of our own fragmented myths, our own symbolic systems, our own search for meaning. Let's move into our final reflections. The predator is a mythic figure not just because of what it does, but because of what it remembers. Its presence in the Badlands is a return, a reactivation of something ancient. And in that return, it carries with it a symbolic system, a language of glyphs, trophies, and ritual behavior that mirrors our own myth-making. These aren't just marks, they're memory fragments. They're the predator's way of telling its story, of preserving its legacy, of defining its identity. This is where origin creation myths take center stage. Across cultures, OCMs are built from fragments, stories passed down, symbols carved into stone, rituals reenacted across generations. They're not static. They evolve. They reassemble. And the predator's behavior in Badlands reflects that same process. It doesn't just act. It reenacts. It doesn't just kill. It commemorates. Its trophies are more than victories. They're records. Its glyphs are more than decoration. They're timestamps. Its rituals are more than instinct. Their intention, and that intention places the predator within a mythic lineage, not as a god, but as a force, a recurring presence, a being whose arrival reshapes the landscape, reframes the timeline, and redefines the meaning of survival. This is cinematic storytelling at its most symbolic. The predator becomes a vessel for exploring identity, memory, and evolution. It's not just a character, it's a concept, a mirror, a myth. And that's where we'll go next. In the next episode, we'll explore the ethics of the hunt, the psychology of prey, and the evolution of the super predator archetype. But for now, we close this chapter with one final thought. The predator doesn't just arrive, it returns. And in that return, it speaks through symbols, through silence, through survival. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more. The quest continues.